Definitely. And are workers in certain industries more prone to this trend of pushing back retirement?
Yeah, I mean, kind of like we were talking about at the beginning, there are kind of two different types of people who are driving this trend. Low income workers, and that's really a financial issue. They just don't have enough or anything saved for retirement. You know, these are waiters, food workers, that kind of worker who's maybe earning, low wages throughout their career and maybe don't even have access to a 401k. But then there is another type of worker who's also driving this. They tend to be college educated, older Americans who work in white collar professions or the arts. And they're the people who are more likely to say, I'm not ready to retire at 65. I love what I do, I have a passion for it. I want to stay in the workforce a little bit longer.
I wonder, though, about the greater overall sort of economic impact of having an aging working class. I wonder if there are will be enough jobs available as people get older. Even if they want to work, they might not be able to.
Right. Well, I mean, right now, our labor force actually needs workers. That's something we saw in the pandemic, that there was a real labor shortage. And employers still say they need workers. So, keeping a bigger labor force and keeping people in the labor force for longer actually has a positive impact on the economy. But there are some other impacts that maybe are not so positive. And one that we're seeing right now is that with boomers retiring at record levels right now, Social Security is spending more than it's taking in through taxes. And that's an issue because it means Social Security is running through its trust fund, which you've probably heard about. A lot of our listeners have heard about. And that means that that trust fund will be depleted in about 10 years. And at that point, Social Security benefits will be cut by about 20%. So if they don't fix it, I mean, there are ways to fix Social Security, but right now, the trajectory is Social Security spending more than it's taking in. The outcome could be cuts in retirement benefits, which of course means that more people might have to stay in the workforce for even longer. So that becomes, again, like a cyclical issue. Like,
Yeah.
is it good for the economy? Maybe, but at that point in 10 years, who knows what the labor force might look like. So yeah, that is an issue.
A lot of people talk about Social Security, and I think it's a good issue to discuss. On this channel, I consistently say that Social Security shouldn't be your golden parachute. Yes, you've contributed to your Social Security, and this is your money, and the government does owe you a portion of it back. I definitely understand that. That's 100% correct. But in my profession, a lot of people come into my office and I say, hey, you need to diversify, whatever it may be. Some people say, I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket. So I'm going to put some money in this bank, some in this bank. I'm going to invest with this person, invest with this person. And that's a bad way to think about that. So let me give you an example. Someone says, I don't want to have all my eggs in one basket. I'm going to put $50,000 here, 50,000 at this bank, 50,000 at this bank, 50,000 at that bank. Now we all understand about FDIC. The coverage is up to $250,000 and even more if you have a trust, if you have all kinds of other things. There's some things that you can actually increase the amount of FDIC coverage that you actually have. That's a whole nother conversation. But they say, I don't want to have all my eggs in one basket. Well, you basically, it's not that you have all your eggs in one basket. You have the same egg in different baskets, meaning that cash, just strictly cash spread around, doesn't do anything. It doesn't matter if it's all in one bank or if it's all in 5 different banks, right? You're just spreading yourself thin. Now, as far as Social Security, that's one savings vehicle for retirement. It is one. There's a 401k, there's 403bs, there's depending on your job, if it's government or non-government. But then, you have your savings account. Then you also have high yield savings account. You have brokerage accounts. There's other vehicles. They have health savings accounts. There are different vehicles that you can use to actually save for your retirement. That's actually tax efficient and a great way to prepare for that day that your income does dry up. And maybe you're not in these white collar jobs. Maybe you're not a financial advisor. Maybe you're not a doctor or lawyer and you can't work. Like she said, maybe you're a waitress and you have a very physical job. My dad was a mechanic. So he can't do that until he's 75 or 80 and when he feels like it, right? Because it just takes a toll on the body just because of the line of work that you are in. So, my recommendation to retirees is to really take a good look about your job and how long you actually can do it. And think about transitioning. There's a lot of people who are not getting into the workforce or they're talking about there are not enough jobs. It's because we become consumers. So we need to be creators. We need to give something in the world. Even though you're retired, you can still produce something to actually get an income. And I have this conversation pretty often with retirees is that there's a difference between consumption and creation. If you're always consuming, you're going to be in debt. If you are contributing or creating, you can create wealth. So when you are going to your job, you're actually creating something. You're creating your workload, creating emails and marketing plans and advertising, and maybe you have a skill that you're giving to the world. That is going to give you money. But if you're constantly consuming, you're constantly on Amazon or shopping at Walmart or going to Target or whatever that you're doing, then that is consumption. And that leads you closer to debt. That leads you further away from your retirement goal. So understanding that balance of that consumption and creation is going to be very important in retirement. And she put on some good points as far as that gap. And basically the gap is we are spending more than we are creating. And, a long time ago, people used to work 40, 50, 60 hours. Now, obviously there's some labor laws and things of that nature that came into play because people were just working so hard. The railroads were built, people working day in and day out, 7 days a week. There was no such thing as a weekend. Right? So they understood there has to be some type of work-life balance. And that as retirees, that's something that you're going to have to face, and you're going to have to realize that sooner than later, and you're going to need a plan.